Today, we say goodbye to the 2024 season and recap the Yankees series. You're listening to the Bucco Bantr podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Scott, cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, sending case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back. This is the last episode of the 2024 season. It feels surreal. We've been doing this for one full year. Man, it's kind of, I don't know how to feel right now. I mean, obviously disappointed by the season, but sad that the season's over.
It went by really fast, but also it felt really long at the same time. Like there was times where it just dragged when the team was not doing well and you had to keep recording and talking about the nonsense that happens. And then there was a lot of positives too, right? I mean, we can't forget about the Skenes debut and all the great moments we had at the park and seeing Jared Jones and Nick Gonzalez and just our own personal accolades as well throughout the year, just building this. And when we first started this, I think it was just like, hey, let's mess around on a mic. And let's talk about the Pirates.
Let's just have fun with it, which we do. But
we have a blast. But I don't think we ever thought starting in January or our first
February probably. Yeah,
recording was in February that we would be at this point right now, and it's a lot, but it's well deserved. I think. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back, but we're just getting started.
Absolutely, man. I'm proud of how far we came this year, and I definitely didn't envision to be where we are right now in February. But I think the sky is a ceiling, and I think we got in, even though this season was a little bit disappointing. I think we got into it at sort of a fun time. I mean, we got Paul Skenes debuting today, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. I'll say it. And, we've got a lot of young arms coming up. This team is on the verge of competing. I'll put it that way. And, I'm excited for next year and the offseason. Let's get to the offseason first. Winter meetings, free agency, all that.
We just got a comment on our Twitter asking what the offseason has in store for us. And there's going to be weekly episodes. That is guaranteed. You are going to get at least one episode per week, most likely more. We plan on doing a ton of interviews. We're going to have some guest appearances, some guest hosts. Should we announce that now?
Yeah, let's
actually. We were going to wait to the end, but let's get it out of the way now since we're talking about the offseason and everything that's going to happen bi-weekly. Starting this upcoming Sunday, Pirates beat writer and reporter Noah Hiles will be joining the show as a co-host throughout the entire offseason.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm so excited, man. Noah's been the most reoccurring guest on the show, and every time he's here, it's a pleasure talking to him, getting his insights, and just watching him grind it out his first season as well, along with us, was awesome. And shout out to him, Destin, and Stump. But Noah's going to be joining us, and we could not be more excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Noah, man. That was he's our most reoccurring guest here on Bucco Bantr, and he's gonna run the numbers up by being on bi-weekly in the off season. And I'm excited to just have him on as a third host and just talk baseball, not necessarily, hey, who's going to start tomorrow or what are you hearing here and here. Just having casual baseball conversations with a good friend and someone who has really supported us throughout the creation of Bucco Bantr.
Absolutely, man. Let's talk about this season a little bit. A lot has happened. A lot needs to happen, Scott, in order for this team to make strides. They didn't end the season that well. I know they took 2 of 3 from the Yankees, but if you're looking at the grand scheme of things and how things went from the All-Star break up until game 162, disappointing. I know we've said on multiple occasions that this team on paper has most likely overachieved, or they're, maybe ahead of their schedule of what they thought they would be, but the holes were glaring once the season continued. They had bullpen issues, which is something you did not expect going into 2024. You had the emergence of some starting pitchers, and you're going to have to make some decisions in the offseason and going into spring training, how that rotation is going to fill out. And most importantly, you have a lot of question marks on the field. You have a question mark at first base. You have question marks in both corners of the outfield. You have a question mark at shortstop. You have a question mark at catcher on who's going to be your starting catcher. You have a question mark at third base if Brian Hayes is going to come back healthy. What does this team need to do in order to take that next step, Scott?
Yeah, man. I mean,
a lot of I'm sorry.
That's a loaded question. On one hand, this team does look different than it did at the beginning, as one would expect. But you could also argue the point that there are just as many holes, if not more question marks. I don't know if I want to call them holes, but question marks going into this offseason. Like, we moved O'Neill Cruz to center field. Great. I mean, I think that's best for his long-term outlook. But who's the everyday shortstop going forward? Is that person on the roster yet? With O'Neill Cruz being new to the up the middle in the outfield, we definitely need to shore up our corners, especially left field, being one of the biggest left fields in Major League Baseball. Do we have those guys on the roster right now? I don't know, because our two corner outfielders were two of the worst in the league this year, and I'm talking about BDLC and Reynolds. And then also we need to shore up some bullpen help. So, there are question marks, and you could argue just as many as there were coming into the season. But coming into the season, we also thought the bullpen was going to be a strength. So you can see how the roster has changed a little bit since April, since the spring.
Yeah. Hopefully they're able to address the bullpen issues. You have Dari Moreta hopefully coming back healthy next year. Ryan Barucki's a free agent. I know he didn't have the year that we expected him to have. I'm going to point the finger at injury on that one, and not really getting his feet wet and having consistent enough outings to really show what he has could probably bring him back on a team-friendly deal. But you're going to lose Chapman, right? You're going to have question marks on, does Falter move to the bullpen? Does Ortiz go back to that long man role, or does he start off in the rotation? He had a hell of a year after starting in that long man role. And then you have the emergence of Mike Burrows, who we saw this week, Scott. Yeah. What a story. You think this is a name you're going to see in 2022. You don't see him debut to game 165 in 2024. And I wouldn't want to say dominated, but he looked really, really good. That changeup is gross that he throws, and he has every right to try and fight his way into that starting rotation. Bubba Chandler, Johan Oviedo coming back next year. Bailey Falter had a good year. Good problems to have on that end. But if you look at who they brought into 2024 as improvements to the team, would they spend $38 million this offseason?
I think it was somewhere around there, like 36, 38. Yeah.
Okay. And that was a combination of Aroldis Chapman, Rowdy Tellez, Michael A. Taylor, Marco Gonzalez, Martin Perez, Yasmani Grandal, and Andrew McCutchen. Tellez, Taylor, Perez are all gone already.
Yep.
We don't need to get into the Tellez mess. We don't need to get into the Michael A. Taylor experiment.
That's $15 million off the books right there.
$15 million off the books. You signed Chapman for 10.5. That's the only name that I look at there. I'm like, it might be worth it to sign him.
Yeah.
I loved Chapman this year. I mean, he drove me up a fucking wall sometimes. I'm not going to lie. There was many times on the roller coaster that is Aroldis Chapman where I'm like, what are we doing here? But you have to take a step back and remind yourself, this is one of the greatest relief pitchers of all time.
Yeah. He's 37 right now?
He's 37 and he's throwing 104. He got better as the year went on. He was not only throwing that split more consistently in the strike zone, but he was just painting with 103, 104, and he was able to step into that closer role when Bednar was not getting the job done. I don't know if I sign him for 10.5 again on another 1-year deal, but I think another team would probably give him that. So I think he's gone.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's a guy that the only guy on this list that I'm looking at that I would bring back, given the bullpen troubles. He was our best reliever this year, 14 saves after being named the closer, in August. So he was great. He was absolutely great. And like you said, he got better as the year going on. Another name to watch, Marco Gonzalez. And I might have this wrong, so apologies if I am, but I believe he has a club option worth $15 million. So the Pirates could opt in or out. I have a wild guess what they're going to do. I don't think they're picking up that $15 million club option for 2025 because I think that $15 million could be spent elsewhere. If you're going to give, especially if you give Chapman 10 again.
Yeah.
I think, between Chapman and Tellez and Taylor right there, that was like 18 million. I think you could have gotten a couple relievers along with Chapman to be in the bullpen this year to shore it up. But again, they didn't go into this year thinking that the bullpen was going to be a weakness. So I'd like to see some of that money allocated towards bullpen help. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think Gonzalez is going to be back. Also, you've got Grindal, 2.5, Bucky 1.6, Jalen Beeks absolutely probably gone at 1.675, and Kutch at $5 million. That's going to be a very hot topic this offseason. Obviously, we know Kutch wants to come back, but is he coming back? I'll give you my opinion right now, and I hope this doesn't make me any less of a Yinzer than anyone listening, because I love Kutch. We all love Kutch. That he brought winning baseball back to Pittsburgh with Clint Hurdle. I think they also could use that $5 million elsewhere next year. I think you need to leave that DH spot open for guys like Reynolds, maybe Henry Davis if he's around. Guys that you can move in and out of that spot, because they have a lot of players on this roster as currently constructed that can play multiple positions. So you might see a different guy in right field every day, or not every day, but often second base, third base, and so on.
1 year, 2.53 million. Does that work for you?
I'm told I don't care what the money is. I am off signing Kutch next year.
Fair enough. And I understand why, if you're going to allocate that money to something that is going to be an immediate placeholder into this lineup, not a Swiss Army knife guy, not a fringe reliever who has been a journeyman, somebody who's going to step in and say, hey, this is my everyday left fielder. This is my everyday right fielder. This is my everyday shortstop, because we spent the money to get him here and pushed aside Andrew McCutchen. Andrew McCutchen didn't have a bad year.
Oh, let me preface this by saying that Andrew McCutchen was not even close to our biggest problem this year.
No, of course not. I understand that when you say it. I think it really boils down to, how do you define the Pirates going for it? Or how does this organization define going all in? Is that finally spending the money that has been unprecedented in free agency? Not internal extensions, which you might see this offseason, which I would like to see for a couple of guys. We'll get into that in later episodes. But are you going to break the bank a little bit to show that you're serious? Are you going to let the failures of the 2024 trade deadline impact what you do in 2025? Are you going to hang on to guys like Thomas Harrington, Braxton Ashcraft, and others that could potentially yield a return that are going to help the team in the next couple of years? There needs to be, I know there's discourse every single offseason of what the Pirates have failed to do and what they need to do. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but let's talk about the window, Scott, because you've seen what Paul Skenes can do. Jared Jones, Mitch Keller is going to be a very solid middle to back end rotation guy, especially if Bubba Chandler works out. How does this team look at that window? Is it next year? that they expect to win the Central, or is it the year after that? It has to be next year.
Here's my answer. Whenever Paul Skenes is on this roster, should be your window.
Yes,
This is why I've been saying, and we might have mentioned this on Sundays or this past episode. This is the most important offseason that me and you have probably witnessed as Pirates fans.
absolutely.
Easily, because you've got Skenes for 5 more years. Next year, there's no 80 to 82 win window. Because this year, we went into this year saying, 78 to 82, low 80s. That would be a phenomenal, that sounds like a realistic option. We failed to meet those standards. We actually matched last year's record, which should be seen as a failure. But as long as Paul Skenes and you have these prospects are on this roster, no year should be a step towards contention. It should be contention.
Right. There's no prospect hugging. There's no, I know we don't have bats in the system now, but go out this offseason, make some trades, be active at the winter meetings, monitor guys in the fall league for Rule 5. You need to make drastic changes internally. I mean, just from a player standpoint, you need to make drastic changes from a coaching perspective, a development perspective, which they've started to do. They fired the international scouting director, and they brought in Max Kwan, is now who was prior to him being him leaving the Pirates, was the director of player personnel. Then he went and spent a year with the Boris Corporation before being brought back. And he was responsible for a lot of guys on the Pacific Rim scouting wise. Jungseok Shim, who was a big signing for them internationally. They gave $750,000 to. I mean, I understand Shim hasn't really done anything yet, and now he is gone. But he has been key in bringing in guys and developing them. And hopefully this is a step in the right direction. I don't know what the plan is for the affiliates, changing coaching in there, hitting coaching, people down on the complex at the major league level. Obviously, changes need to happen, but we're starting to see it already. And I think in the next couple of days, there could be some announcements as well.
Yeah. Real quick on Shim. The stories we hear about his backfield appearances, it's enough to suck me in. I don't care how many times he's pitched in the last 3 years. Don't care if it's 8 appearances, 3 innings. Everyone I've talked to that has seen him said he is like disgusting. So obviously I was sad and he was a part of the BDLC trade, but that's another day's topic. Max Kwan. This is one step. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made in this front office, but Max Kwan is definitely one step. This international scouting department has been non-existent, like especially in Latin America. When you've got teams like Cleveland, I'll compare them to Cleveland because they're a small market, but I know like the Yankees specifically are like very much so into the international market. They always trade for international pool money. They're always a top player every year in the J2 signings. Cleveland too. Cleveland has a lot of international prospects. Can you name a notable Latin American prospect for the Pirates that is signed by the Pirates?
A notable one?
Yeah.
There's one that has debuted, and that's it.
Yeah. Luis Ortiz is like the only one from the last regime is like the only one, and he wasn't even like a big signing. Down in Bradenton, like we've heard stories of Yordani De Los Santos. He hasn't really done much. Shaylin Polanco had a really bad year. Axel Plaza, Omar Alfonso. Tony Blanco was on the complex. He wasn't in Bradenton, but Tony Blanco is definitely a guy. But he's very maxed out for his age. Like big dude. We saw him down in Florida. And then Esmeralda Valdez. But like these guys are so far away. So I think, the Pacific Rim, great. You need to have a presence everywhere. Chang, Po Yu Chen, Jiwon Bei. They have Shim. We'll count him in here too. They have more Pacific Rim guys than most organizations, which is cool. But like they definitely need to improve their presence in Latin America, and that's something I'm going to be looking forward to. And one of the topics I was going to bring up when we talked about year end was, besides ownership, because we can talk about bum nutting all day long, what do you think is the Pirates' biggest issue? Because this kind of segues into from the international scouting director role being announced this week. In my opinion, the biggest issue is player development, and that has been the issue since the Neil Huntington era, right? And Ben Cherington was hired being known as a PD guy in Boston. Something drastically needs to change there, and I was really optimistic about Baker coming in as the farm director. And I don't know if it's on him directly, but like something drastically needs to change in player development.
I agree. Player development has been very poor outside of pitching. They've nailed that. Let's give them that. But in terms of getting guys, position players through the system and major league ready, you can count them on one hand, and you might not need all 5 fingers to see who.
Nick Gonzalez was a nice story this year, right?
Nick Gonzalez was a very nice story, but I don't think I attribute Nick Gonzalez's success to what Pirates coaching did for him. There's a whole story about what Nick Gonzalez did this offseason in order to make those necessary adjustments to have success at the major league level. I'll jump off of development real quick because you mentioned development. I'm not going to beat the dead horse. We obviously know that is very poor and needs to be worked on. The biggest issue, I think, right now is culture.
Ooh.
The culture of the Pittsburgh Pirates is tarnished. It is poor. It is, from a league perspective, just overall bad. A place where no matter what prospects you have, no matter how bright the future looks, it's always going to be, that's still the Pittsburgh Pirates. They don't win. They don't have consistency. They short players on bonus money. Even though, listen, that whole deal with Rowdy, and I know today IKF, there was a little bit of an instance where he might have been shorted on his player incentives too. I'm sure that happens all over
I don't buy
league.
this story, by the way.
Of course not.
Like, there's no way he's giving up a $250K performance bonus because he wants Peguero to get reps at shortstop.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Also, you don't put that guy in that position.
No.
I'm sure it happens all over the league that we don't hear about. And it's probably not as publicized. But things like this get publicized with the Pirates, and they're under a microscope because of how poorly things are run. And it's almost expected that something like this is going to happen, so we keep an eye out on for it.
I think what pisses me off the most is that they did this not even a week after the Rowdy news went viral everywhere. And they're doing it like out in the open, like blatantly, going into an off season where like probably the biggest off season that especially this regime, because this regime is fighting for their jobs, and they're just making the case for the worst culture in the entire league. Like you said, culture is a massive problem. Why would any free agent, and we said this in last episode, but we'll repeat ourselves here. Why would any free agent see this happen and say, I want to play for the Pirates next year? Why? No. I think playing with Paul Skenes is attractive. Playing with some of these young guys like O'Neal Cruz is attractive. But like, if the front office is going to treat their players like this, if the organization is going to treat their players like this, they're not trying to build a winning culture.
Look at a team like Cleveland. Look at a team like Detroit, who's went on a historic run in order to clinch.
Awesome.
That was a team you look at before the break and you say, there's no chance. They're going to sell the house. And they got rid of Flaherty at the deadline. They had issues with Spencer Torkelson at the beginning of the year where they sent him down. Now he's come back up.
We saw him in his first game back up, and he was crushing the ball.
And he's continued that since then. And you have guys even like Max Clark, who is not going to be called up, obviously.
Watching every game.
Yeah, he's not even probably going to be there next year. But just that winning culture that they're establishing there, that the bond that those guys seem to have in the clubhouse, it's hard to see that with this Pirates team as constructed. And you can look into the lower levels, and maybe these guys have played together a little bit and they might be a little bit closer, but name one point this season where you're like, man, these guys really like playing with each other. Was there one visible moment? Forget about behind the scenes and what we don't know. Was there one thing that the fans could look at and say, wow, this team really meshes well? They really like playing together. They really can capitalize off of each other. Just good vibes. None. I don't think it's happened once.
None. And this is why I think they'd benefit from a vocal, like, veteran leader. But I'll say names. I don't care at this point. Like, Cabrian Hayes looks miserable most of the time, and I know there's he probably has longstanding beef with some people in the front office, and he's got his reasons to be mad. But this is a guy they gave a 7-year deal to. Like, he looks miserable. Brian Reynolds, we know what Brian Reynolds is. He's never going to be that vocal leader. All right, he brings his lunch pail to work every day, and he hits baseballs and he goes home. Andrew McCutchen, I don't know if this is another reason why I don't want him back. Is he the clubhouse culture builder? I don't think so. I don't think he wants to be bothered with that. So yeah, man. I mean, I think that, and then I also think, tying this into another topic, Shelton's job, which, on the record, I love Shelton, but I think they could benefit from a manager who's been there, who has experience.
You brought this. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry.
No.
You brought this up the other day.
Yep.
I don't know if you were just getting there, but we need a manager, like you said, that has experience, that has been there, that knows what it's like to have a postseason run, but someone of that caliber that can deal with this front office, that can deal with the nonsense that is inevitably going to happen with Bob Nutting not spending money, with GMBC making questionable moves. Somebody that's able to deal with that and use the pieces that they're given to maximize what this team can be. I don't know if Shelton's the guy for the job. No. I understand that the pieces that he has been given over the past 5 years is not a recipe for winning baseball. This year arguably was the best year and the best roster that he was given, and it was not a good roster. From game 1 to game 162, there was way too much nonsense happening and way too many guys coming up and down and slumping and injuries. But he hasn't been able to show that managerial expertise or that gamesmanship that really puts these guys to the next level.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, can he be a good manager? I think so. I like Shelton a lot. Is he the man for this job? I don't think so at all, actually. I think they need a Kevin Cash type, to be honest with you. A Kevin Cash who is able to work with an organization like this. But at the same time, the Rays front office is so more well-functioning than the Pirates. There's stories about Neander, the GM, who just is so honest with the players, with the coaching stuff. He goes, if we're entertaining trade talks about you, I'll let you know, and I'll let you know where, and everyone respects him for it. It seems like no one here is on the same page,
right?
From Nutting to the front office to the manager, no one's on the front page. Again, we're not in the clubhouse, we're not in the front office. That's what it looks like from the outside. The Rays and the Guardians, those organizations seem so much more well-run. Let's use Kansas City, for example. Kansas City, after having a 50-some win team last year, is going to the playoffs. Okay? And we're always being preached about windows and our contention window starts here. I hate that planning. I know you need to have some type of vision and plan, but the Royals saw an opportunity to go out and spend money, and not a lot of money, but spend money on starting pitching this offseason. And they had, in my opinion, one of the most efficient off seasons, or the best off seasons of any team, especially a small market team. Why there's no reason why the Pirates are going to have that off season, especially after winning 76 games last year. The Royals won 50 some, and the Royals are in the playoffs. The difference is that the Royals have a guy like Bobby Witt, who just won the AL batting title, generational player, and we don't quite have that, but we could have definitely we could have definitely built an 80-win team with the pieces that we already have.
And as you mentioned earlier, a vocal veteran leader like Salvador Perez, who is still killing it, by the way. But having that healthy mix of the future and guys that have been there goes such a long way, especially deep into a season after an all-star break, when you're in the dog days of the summer and you're trying to grind out a one-run game, which the Pirates did way too often this year and weren't on the winning side. It takes guys like Salvi. It takes guys that have talent like Bobby Witt that are able to get you through that and then put you into that playoff picture. And like you said, I don't think Shelton is the right guy for the job. We're going to find out tomorrow, I think.
Probably this week, for sure. Tomorrow, probably.
I don't think you even wait. If you're going to fire him, and even maybe by the time this episode comes out Monday morning, he could be gone. I'm glad they didn't Clint Hurdle him and fire him before game 162 and ask him to still go out there and manage. I just think there is going to be a lot of good coaching options this year that could really help this team without totally taking down the entire front office and building up, without getting rid of GMBC. Obviously, Nutting's going to be there. A lot of the guys in the front office that help with GMBC are going to be there. But on the field, with the hitting coaches, with the manager, there's going to be a lot of options. Skip Shoemaker is out there. I mean, that's probably the best option. And he's going to be highly sought after for the White Sox, for the Reds. Whether or not he wants to go to those situations, I don't know. I think he probably has the upper hand.
Yep.
I'm not going to talk about Terry Francona too much, but that name's been floated around. It's not even sure if
he's
he wants to
also
come back.
Beaver County guy. So, like, if he were to come back, this makes sense. And he's worked with organizations like the Pirates before and has gotten the most out of them. I think that's my opinion. That's the best fit. I want an old school guy who's been there. He's been there with 2 different organizations.
He knows how to win.
And he's a Pittsburgh guy. I think Pittsburgh would love him. Adam, before we there's a couple offseason topics I want to touch on. I know we've been going here for a while, but I want to ask you how you describe the Pirates season in one word. But before I do that, we're talking about coaching changes that need to happen. One thing that must happen, that absolutely must happen, is Andy Haynes be fired. If nothing else, if Andy Haynes has a job with the Pirates tomorrow, even, it shouldn't take more than a week to fire this guy. If he still has a job, I seriously will be very frustrated. There's a lot of other words I could have used, but frustrated. He absolutely needs to go. I think Oscar Marine's done a really good job as pitching coach, or as good as a job as he can. But yeah, I think Andy Haynes needs to go. And then on top of that, let's get to the describing the season in one word. I have my one word ready to go. I don't know if you do.
Yeah. There's a lot of one word responses that I can give. The one that best sums it up for me personally, as we went on this journey with Bucco Bantr, covering the team all year, being at all of the games, watching everything unfold. The word I would describe the 2024 Pirates season as is stressful.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's for me.
Yeah.
It was stressful. Just the ups and downs, the hot start that they almost always get off to in the first couple of weeks of the season, to injuries, to guys not working out, to waiting for Paul Skenes to get up, then the high of watching him pitch and the highs of watching Jared Jones pitch, to the lows of Jones going to the IL, to Nicky G going to the IL, to Henry Davis pretty much being non-existent the entire year, to having to watch Jack Sawinski take at bats, then going to Brian De La Cruz taking at bats. There was just never a time where you could sit back, relax, and trust what's going out on the field on a day-to-day basis. And that's why it was stressful. It was stressful all the way up until game 162 because they made it stressful.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that pain. I think the word I would use is underachieving. You go into this year winning 76 games in 2024, where I would say that was overachieving, or 2023 with the roster they had last year. And then when having the same record this year is, I think, a massive disappointment, is an underachievement. I think you have the best pitcher in the league. You waited so long on guys. You let guys go for so long that were just black holes in the lineup. And then you DFA them with 5 games left in the season, or, you know, you don't, or they didn't move them at all. Like I just, like, there was no sense of urgency, and a team like this can't, I don't know, can't afford to wait around for someone to start performing. But then again, they moved too quick on some other moves. This is where I had a big problem with the roster management this year too. Like, I thought they DFA'd Rosie Contreras like way too early. And then the bullpen became a massive black hole for them. So yeah, underachievement is the best. Underachieving is the best word I can use to describe this season. It's I was thinking that 80 to 85 wins was realistic, and we fell short of that.
I think that was the general consensus amongst Pirates fans, is 80 to 85 wins, with the prospect at the beginning of the year of Paul Skenes making his debut. I wouldn't say people were hyped on the offseason moves, but it just seemed like there maybe was a little bit different energy going into this year, and hopefully they can continue that positive energy going into next year. But I am not going to let spring training results fool me going into 2025, because, as I mentioned, it's a problem that we haven't talked about, Henry Davis. It's a big problem. It's a big problem that Jack Sawinski was a starter on this team for most of the season. Guys like that need to figure it out, or the show's going to move by them very, very quickly. And it's guys, I mentioned Henry Davis because it's guys that they have invested in, and it just doesn't seem like they've developed enough where you could see a future with that guy in the lineup. Like, you can, if I were to say, Scott, close your eyes and envision a 2025 lineup right now, does Henry Davis come to mind?
No, I don't think he makes the 25-man roster, 26-man roster. I really don't, because you're expecting Andy to come back. You want Joey Bart to come back. Are you carrying 3 catchers with the possibility of Andy playing elsewhere, with Henry playing elsewhere too? Like, I don't know, but it doesn't seem likely at this point.
Right. And I just say that because you mentioned roster management, and I think that was handled poorly as it was last year. And just overall, it has been a mess. But I think this is a good point to stop our rants, because we could have an entire episode on this. We've been talking for 40 minutes already on everything that has gone wrong with this season. And it seems like it's only been 2, because we have a lot to get off our chest. But the Pirates did go to the Bronx this week, and they closed out the season on a positive note, taking 2 of 3 from the Yankees. You got to see Jared Jones pitch. You got to see Paul Skenes pitch in the Bronx, which already has Yankees fans up in arms about the potential of him being a Yankee. And that was his tryout.
Relax. Yeah, we knew that was coming.
Calm down. But I'll get it started off with Friday, 4-2 W. Jared Jones was awesome, man. He was pitching pissed off, maybe even a little bit extra, because he was reaching back and he was touching 101. He was hitting 100 on a consistent basis. 4 1/3, 5 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He's going to finish with a 4.14 ERA, had 11 whiffs on the day, 7 whiffs on the fastball, 51 strikes on 85 pitches, went to the 4-seam a lot. This is the best Jared Jones I like to see personally. The guy that we know and love, who's going to go out there and say, fuck you, I'm better than you. I'm not going to try and do anything too flashy. I'm going to throw it by you. You try and hit it. Throwing the four seam 44% of the time is a lot more than what he's been doing it lately because he's been mixing in the slider a little bit more. He's been mixing in the curveball, but I like to see him just reach back and just hurl that thing, man. You had a bullpen of Wentz, Holderman, Majinski, Santana, Chapman, zeros from the bullpen in this game. The offense, Nicky Gonzalez broke out of his home run slump. He had 2 hits on the day. B-Ray went twice deep. That was supposed to be a Yankee as well, right? Brian Reynolds?
Brian
He was
Reynolds,
almost a Yankee.
Yeah.
All right. 3 RBIs, pretty much the only offense here, but 3 home runs as a team, 0 for 2 runners in scoring position, 4 left on base, 8 strikeouts, 5 walks, 6 hits. Good start in New York.
Yeah, great start. Carlos Rodon had 17 whiffs, but we managed to get the W. So that was a big win for the Pirates. We go into Saturday, 9-4 win 2 in a row in the Bronx. Paul Skenes went 2 innings. He was on an innings restriction or a pitch count restriction. 2 innings pitched, no hits, no earned runs, 3 Ks. He ends the year with a 1.96 ERA. His final numbers were 133 innings pitched, 2.44 FIP, 170 Ks as a rookie, 11.5 K per 9, a 2.17 walk per 9, and 0.95 whip. That is just a ridiculous number, to be honest with you. A 0.95 whip, a sub 2 ERA, and a sub 1 whip. He was the All-Star Game starter. Just a historical rookie season. Let's appreciate the fact that we witnessed one of the most historical rookie seasons by a pitcher of all time. On top of that, Mike Burrows debuted today. He worked his way back from Tommy John this year, and he also earned a win in this game. He went 3 1/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 2 Ks, and gave up a homer. Had 4 whiffs. So Mike Burrows is someone we expect to play a big role in this organization next year. And then we got David Bednar went 2/3 of an inning, 2 Ks. Barucki threw an inning, gave up a run. Santana threw an inning, gave a run. But I just want to mention Santana's been one of the best relievers on this team for the second half of the season behind Chapman. Another great waiver wire claim by Ben. Joey Barton, Dennis Santana for 2024. Jalen Beeks went a third of an inning, 2 hits, 1 walk. They had to pull him for Chapman when he got his 14th save. Judge. How about Aaron Judge went 0 for 5 with 5 Ks in this game? That was
against 5 different pitchers.
5 pitchers, yeah. Skenes got him in the first, got him and Soto in the first inning. That was pretty cool to see. Grandal went 3 for 4 with a home run and 2 RBIs. He is now able to go take a vacation. Good for Yasmani. He earned it. 5 homers total for the Pirates on Saturday. Nicky G hit another one, his 7th on the year. Billy Cook hit his 3rd. Jared Trillo hit his 9th. And Nick York hit his 2nd. Good to see contributions from Billy Cook and Nick York, or as some say, Nick York City. 8 hits total, 1 for 2 with runners in scoring position, 1 left on base, 12 Ks, 8 hits, and 5 of them were home runs, just by the way.
Shout out the short porch in New York, man. The wind was blowing in, too, on that day. And the ball that Nick York hit was absolutely crushed. Towering shot, which brings us to Sunday, 6-4 Bailey Falter took the mound for the last time this year. 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned, 3 walks, no strikeouts, gave up a home run. His ERA is at 4.43 on the year. He had 4 whiffs, only 34 strikes on 64 pitches. He had a bullpen of Matson, Wentz, Holderman, Majinski. The offense wasn't really going today. Bart had a couple of hits. Palacios had 2 RBIs. But other than that, Scott, there really wasn't much going on.
Yeah, I watched all of today's game after the Steelers game, by the way. Isaac Matson looked pretty good in his 2 innings of work. Holderman looked good. Unfortunately, that 1 earned run he was below a 3 ERA until that 1 earned run was given up by Majinski, who came in relief of him. But yeah, only 5 hits. And, they end the season with a loss. They could have had one more win than last year, but,
Nope. No, sir.
76.
And just to close it out on the game recaps for the year, I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. 13 strikeouts as a team, 6 walks, 3 for 10 runners in scoring position, 8 left on base. Makes me feel right at home. Only 5 hits on the day. That is how the 2024 season ends, Scott.
Yep.
We could finally rest we can finally take a step back.
We can rest, and we don't have to worry about writing out lineups every day that are drastically different. That's something that's going to save me a lot of time in the off season. But Adam, why don't we get into something fun that we thought of doing was superlatives for the 2024 season. I know we just ranted about everything that went wrong for this year, but let's walk through the superlatives of the 2024 season.
Sure. I'll get us kicked off with pitcher of the year. Obviously, it's Paul Skenes. You can make an argument for a couple of guys. I know Jared Jones had a good year. It didn't probably finish the way he wanted it to with the IL stint. Mitch Keller had his ups and downs, but how could it not be Paul Skenes? 11-3 on the year. Could have easily had a lot more wins if this offense could have helped him out. 1.96 ERA, 133 innings pitched, 170 Ks, 0.95 WHIP, only 32 walks on the year. 99th percentile in pitching run value, 99th percentile in fastball run value, 95th percentile in strikeout rate, 88th percentile in ground ball rate, an expected batting average for opposing hitters at 197. That's what you call dominant.
It's pretty dominant, man. I consider myself very lucky to be able to watch Paul Skenes every 5 days. And I'm excited for next year already for him. I think he's really going to take a step up too as a leader in this clubhouse. We know the type of guy he is. So I'm excited for Paul Skenes next year. Let's go into reliever of the year. Reliever of the year, this was a tough one, but not really at the same time. We're going to go with Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman finished very strong. He had a 3.79 ERA on the year in 68 games, 14 saves in 61 2/3 innings pitched, 98 Ks, most of any lefty reliever in Bucco's history. Almost hit the 100 mark. But Aroldis Chapman was by far the most reliable guy. I know we experienced a stretch where we were like stressed out every time he was coming out. I was also a proponent of trading him at the deadline. Glad we didn't. Shout out to Aroldis Chapman, though.
Really cool to see him in a Pirates uniform this year. Just watching him like warm up in the bullpen. If you go out to the Fatheads bar and you can lean over and just be 10 feet away from him from a over the top view, and look how large of a human being he is and how he's able to generate that fastball. And it's a surprise he really hasn't. It's not a surprise that he hasn't had many arm issues throughout his career, even though he throws that hard, with how he's able to take care of his body and the coil that he gets using his lower half and his torso. It's really incredible to watch. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be the end of his Pirates career, but it was a solid one. So, like you said, shout out Aroldis. Let's go to hitter of the year, Scott. We're going to Brian Reynolds, Mr. Consistent, lunch pail guy, first one in, last one out. Slash 275, 344, 791 on the year, 73 runs, 171 hits, 24 bombs, 88 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. Finishes the year as a 2.2 WAR player, 118 WRC plus. I know the defense regressed this year, had a good amount of outfield assists, but at the plate from both sides, the left side and the right side, even when this team was slumping, you could always look to Brian Reynolds to be that professional hitter that you expect and just consistently put the ball in play, come up with big hits, hit the ball hard, give you that deep ball with 24 home runs. He is just the ultimate Pittsburgh Pirate at this time.
Yeah, he's Mr. Reliable, man. Definitely the most reliable guy in the order, and probably will be next year too. So, most improved player. This is a new one. Most improved is definitely going to go to Nikki G. Shout out to Nikki G, man. A supporter of Bucco Bantr. Bought a shirt. We got to meet him. Really nice guy. Nikki G slash 270, 311, 709 to finish the year. He had 7 home runs, 49 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases, worth 1.4 WAR and a 95 WRC plus. I mean, the big improvement from 2023 was where he slashed 209, 268, 348. Still would like to see those walk numbers go up and that on base percentage go up, and also see more pop. but I also don't want to tinker too much with the changes they made because he looked a lot better. And if this is a guy that is going to hit 7 to 9 in your order, this is a great bat in your lineup. And he obviously made big adjustments in the offseason. You mentioned it earlier. And I'm sure he's going to be working hard this offseason. He seems like a hard worker. He seems like such a good guy. So I'm really excited for Nicky G in 2025 as well.
Like you said, if you could plug him in 7 through 9, a guy that's going to drive in that many runs, who's going to be aggressive at the plate, I think the home runs are going to come with better pitch selection. Not saying that he chases a ton, but as he just becomes more of a pro, I think those numbers are going to improve. He is awesome. I mean, there was a point where he was hitting like 4 through 6 in the lineup for a good portion of the year.
He let off a lot in the end of the year, yeah.
Right, and rightfully so, because he was giving those power numbers. He was driving in a lot of runs. He was having productive outs. Really good to see Nicky G turn it around. One of few bats in the system that has actually panned out, at least for a year period. Which brings us to the comeback player of the year. It has to be O'Neal Cruz. Only played 9 games last year before he broke his ankle. Got off to a little bit of a rocky start this year. It seemed like he was kind of trying to get his footing back quite literally with the ankle and getting used to playing shortstop every day. He finished the year slashing 259, 324, 773 with 72 runs, 140 hits, 21 bombs, 76 RBIs, and 22 stolen bases. 2020 guy on a season where you thought at a lot of times he could not hit the ball to save his life. He finished 2020. At one point in the season, he could not hit lefties to the point where you take him out. Hits lefties very well now.
But 2020, I think the most impressive aspect of that is the fact that it was his first full season as a professional baseball player.
People forget that. People are very hard on O'Neal Cruz. A lot of people internally are hard on O'Neal Cruz. This was his first full major league season, and he didn't even get to play the position that he's played his entire life for the full season. He's now made a transition to center field, and he's going to I like the move. I think it's going to play very well. I think once he has a full offseason under his belt, it's going to improve the bat even more. Finishes a 3.5 WAR player, 110 WRC plus. You obviously know the talent and the pop that he has. And I think we mentioned it going into this season, but it's a very real possibility for next season where you almost expect him to be close to a 30-30 guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. O'Neal Cruz was great this year. I can't say enough of good things about him, especially moving from shortstop to a position you never played before. I think that's going to be huge for his long-term impact. And these numbers right here that I'm looking at, 259, 324, 773, 3.5 WAR, 110 WRC plus, like those are great numbers. And I'm expecting those to get even better after his first full season as a pro. Next, we're going to go to Prospect of the Year, Bubba Chandler. Bubba Chandler, he was Prospect of the Week so many weeks for us. 10-7 with a 3.08 ERA, 119 2/3 innings pitched, 148 Ks, and 1.02 WHIP. He looked great. He's definitely going to be debuting at some point next year. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to have Paul Skenes, Bubba Chandler, Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, and whoever else in that rotation. Thomas Harrington, maybe. Also, other prospects that shout out Thomas Harrington, shout out Carlson Reed, Christian Curtis, Michael Kennedy. So many pitching prospects in this organization.
Hunter
Barco, thank you. Braxton Ashcraft. A lot of names that we can get excited about. And hopefully there are some more bats on the way because besides Tamar Johnson, not a lot of bats, but expect Tamar to go back to Double-A next year. He's only 20 years old, so he's still young. But Bubba Chandler was really impressive. Really, really impressive this year.
Multiple minor league player of the week for us. It kind of had to be Bubba Chandler the entire time. Really excited to see what the future holds, which brings us to our last category, Scott, Defensive Player of the Year. This was the most difficult one that we had to choose. As a team, not very good defensively.
Terrible, actually.
Very bad. Ke'Bryan Hayes obviously was a good defender. you can make the argument that he regressed slightly this year as a defender, ever so slightly, with the back issues, and then him missing all the time took him out of the running for us. We have to go with Jared Triolo as our defensive player of the year. He played 5 different positions this year, Scott. He played right field for, I think, just one game, maybe even only a couple of innings, had an incredible catch out there, played shortstop, he played third base, he played second base where he started the season, he played some first base at the end of the year, only made 3 errors.
Yeah. And some unbelievable highlight catches. Like I saw a clip, I think they were playing it on between the 7th and 8th inning, or they're playing like the highlight video of the year and today. And I saw him going back on a ball, and he bobbled it, and then he dove to catch it after the bobble. Like so many catches like that. And people forget, like Jared Triolo is like 6'4", 210, 250. Like he's a big dude, and he's just very, very agile, and can play every position well.
Yeah. A guy that the Pirates like to have on the roster. Not saying that he needs to be a starter, but he also hit better at the end of the year as well. I know we mentioned it in last episode. I would have liked to see him get more reps at first base, but I think just the overall production on offense prohibited that a little bit. But 81st percentile in outs above average.
Yeah.
So all around a really solid year. Gold glove type stuff from Jared Triolo. He's already a minor league gold glover. Obviously, he's not going to get a shot to win that type of award unless he's a consistent player at one position. But Jared Triolo, man, the one defensive bright spot on this team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what comes of Triolo next year. If he makes this roster, I'd like to see him get another opportunity, but we'll see. Which brings us to the end of this episode, man. I think we're at the end of the 2024 season, and we got to give some shout outs to some people that, have followed us, have helped us, have motivated us along the way. Do you want to get us started?
Sure. And I'll just say, we mentioned it a little bit earlier. We didn't expect much of this. We went to a lot of Pirates games in the past couple of years together. We've downed a lot of Topo Chicos at the ballpark together. We've had a lot of good times at the ballpark, a lot of bad times watching this team, but it's always nice going out to the ballpark with you, Scott, and enjoying just a night at PNC Park, the best ballpark in America. That never gets old. Between all the stadiums that we go to and all the baseball experience that we have, it's a special place to do this. And I'm glad that we live so close and we're able to do the things that we have done this year and that we are going to continue to do at the park. That being said, we would not be in this position if it wasn't for the help of the Pirates community, which was a lot bigger than I expected going into this. We knew guys like North Shore 9 was like the top dog going in here. Want to give them a shout out. Donardo, Cody, Jim. Help me out here, Scott, with the rest of them.
Ryan,
right. Tyler, yeah.
Yeah. Donardo, if you haven't mentioned Donardo yet.
They're all very good guys. Jim reached out to us on multiple occasions just to check in with us, to congratulate us on different things that were happening throughout the year. And they've been super helpful, and it's been really nice to get to know them. Sax Boy Billy, the star of the year from day one. Quite literally, game one, Sax Boy met up with us. He might have been one of the first people we ever had on the mini mic. And throughout then, we've had a group chat with him. We've bounced ideas off each other. We've talked about potential content plans moving forward, what we expect out of these types of careers that we're trying to build. And Sax Boy has had one hell of a ride this year. He's going to do great things with the Pirates, with his own content. Genuinely one of the nicest human beings that I could probably say either of us have met. And he's been there not only just on this type of level in the content creation, but on a personal level as well. Really could not have done a lot of the things that we did this year without Sax Boy.
Yeah, I just want to second that too, man. I mean, Sax Boy's not just become a a colleague in the Pirates content world for me and for us, but also a good friend and a person I look up to. Honestly, just a phenomenal human being, and I'm grateful for the friendship that we built with him. So shout out Zach's boy. He's he deserves all the flowers he's gotten this year, and also shout out Braddock Ben. Braddock Ben is another comrade of ours. So we took the trip to Toronto together, and just two great guys in the Pirates community.
Absolutely. Bridge to Bucktober. As of late, Josh helped us out, and he's always reached out throughout the year to see if we could jump on his show. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it work just with how we were recording throughout the years. We almost recorded at the same exact times, but him and his brother Jake were awesome. We got to meet them at the ballpark and talk ball with them. Both really cool guys. They have a really good show. Go check them out. Jim Stam.
Yeah.
And Gary Morgan. Jim, we saw at the ballpark all the time with his family. Shout out to his wife and his kid, always enjoying the ballpark out in left field. And Gary, thank you for having us on the DK Fan Forum podcast. That was big for us.
Yep.
And getting that recognition so early on, and you guys giving us the opportunity to share our knowledge, but also give us that platform, was an awesome experience.
Yeah, Gary and Jim have been very welcoming towards us, and especially I've seen Jim a lot more at the ballpark and developed a friendship with him. And shout out to his wife Chris and Ben, his son. Always have great conversations with them in left field at PNC. And I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. Sharing a icy mango or whatever with Jim, and maybe getting on Fan Forum or having them on Bucco Bantr next year too, because they're two great people in the Pirates community as well.
Absolutely. Platinum Key Brian, one of my favorite pages in all of Pirates Twitter. He killed it again this year. He has so many good things happening for him. He had, obviously the meeting with John Boy where they recognized all the hard work that he's put in and that he continues to do. And just the man behind the account, Mark, we got to know on a personal level. We had him on the podcast. Such a nice guy. We got to meet him in person when he was out here at PNC Park. Just overall, again, I can't say enough kind things about him. And then Renegades of the Rotunda. Chris and Rob were awesome to us the entire year. When we needed them on the mini mic, they were there. When we needed tickets, Chris was always there. Rob was always there. Just so nice to have conversations with them, to have a beer with them, to pick their brains. I mean, they've been doing this for such a long time. The consistency needs to be applauded more often. And they do get their recognition, which I am very happy about, but just two of the best people that we have met in the Pirates world.
They also provide, I just want to note, they provide a comedic relief to this, space, which is always good to have. So shout out Chris and Rob.
And shout out Queen Banshee too.
Yes.
And the Scrivener. Also great people. Can't forget about them. They were there early on. Shout out to them for giving us multiple bobbleheads throughout the year to do giveaways. Really appreciate that. Can't wait to do more with you guys next year. All the beat writers, Noah Hiles, Andrew Destin, Alex Stumpf. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for believing in a young podcast and continuing to do so. We'll always remember all the nights that we had out with you guys, especially one specifically. You guys, if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. Just all around great guys. The best beat in all of baseball.
By far.
I'll put them up against anybody.
There's no beat that compares to the Pirates beat. So
yeah. And then Total Sports Enterprises, our first kind of partnership with a company where we had all these great memorabilia. We gave away like 19 signed baseballs this year, Scott.
Pretty cool.
Signed photo. Whenever we needed them, they were there to provide stuff to make the mini mic content that much better, to add that extra element to the fan experience at the park. They played a huge role in that. We would not be in the position that we are in without Total Sports Enterprises. So cannot say enough about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then how about Just Baseball?
Shout out Just Baseball, man.
Just Baseball. They saw two young podcasters that were coming up in the scene, and they gave us an opportunity, and we're grateful for it. And working with Aram Layton and Jack
Peter.
and Peter Apple, like just a great group of guys. I'm excited to further this partnership with them and learn more from them. But big shout out to them, man. Big shout out to them. This 6 months into the podcast, and we were signed to a network, and I'm really excited for what's to come. I think it's just begun.
Yeah, we held this close to our chest. We obviously want big things for Bucco Bantr, and they gave us that opportunity to make ourselves better in all aspects of this media outlet. So cannot say enough good things about the guys at Just Baseball and just the Just Baseball community as well that we have gotten to know over the past couple of months, which leaves us to some personal thank yous. I'll just for both of us, our friend Adam Debo, listener of the show. You've seen him on the mini mics when either Scott and I were out of town, took over the camera duties at a lot of times. I want to give you a big shout out for jumping in there, being a supporter. It is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Shout out Deebs, man. When you were in Europe, I know when I was in Europe, he helped out, but when you were in Europe, man, he was clutch, and he had people at the ballpark that were willing and able to get on the mini mics, and he was always there to contribute every weekend. So shout out Deebs.
Yeah. Shout out Emma, his girlfriend, who is also the owner of Lucky Lady Jewelry, one of our first sponsors on the show. Go check her out. She created all of our logos. What you see up in the corners here, that's all Emma. All of our graphics on our shirts, she's worked with us. We have no idea what we're doing, and she kind of took our dumb ideas and put them to life. Cannot say enough good things about the work that you have done, and we are extremely grateful for you providing us with the graphics and the logos that have made us what we have done today.
Emma is the foundation of this. Seriously, like we wouldn't be where we are without Emma, and I mean that. Like she developed the brand, the graphics, and that's what makes us who we are. And she's been a big follower and contributor and supporter since day one. We were meeting with her before this thing even got off the ground. So I'm forever indebted to Emma. Shout out Emma, you're the best.
I second all of that. And then for me, shout out to my girlfriend Claire for putting up with me for this entire year through all the ups and downs, through all the long nights of editing and cutting videos and just recording and going to 60 or maybe more baseball games a year and joining us and giving us advice and even helping us out from time to time on just how we should act on the mics, how we can ground ourselves, how we can communicate better. So shout out Claire. I appreciate everything that you did, and can't wait for our next season and you helping us out even further.
Yeah, I'll second that. Shout out Claire, and then shout out to my significant other, Anna Marie. She's been a big supporter, and she's also helped us a lot. Like she's written up a marketing plan for us. She's got that intense entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm looking to put that to work. And I'm excited for her to continue working with us and helping us through the off season and next year. She's put up with me over these long nights as well. And, while we're recording on a Sunday night or a Wednesday night, and, let me be on my phone late at night while I'm trying to put out content. So forever grateful for her for that. And, without Claire and Anna Marie, we wouldn't be here as well. So shout out to both of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cannot thank them enough. They're going to be a vital part of this moving forward as well. The amount of times that I have had to just sit on my phone and be like, hold on, wait a second. I gotta do this. Hold on.
This is for the podcast. I swear this isn't just me just being on my phone. Yeah.
I'm not just doom scrolling, which I do a lot, but shout out to everybody. If we missed a name, I'm sorry. There's so many people to thank. We had such a ball this season, and I'm so excited for the off season and just making this thing everything and more that we expected. But Scott, for the last time of 2024, let's raise it.
Raise it.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates. And